the solution for school safety for legislators. We know school funding and how it's tied, okay? But you guys can have a separate bill, just like they did in Florida, to fund school security. And you can find money for that. And all schools should have a liaison officer. This isn't something that is, rocket science. Every school should have one. Anybody that's important anywhere, or any company, they have officers there. And as you said, they said here, what a great resource that is for kids to get to know these officers. It's a great thing. So there could be separate funding for school safety, and it's a popular bill. That's a bipartisan bill, and that can be done easily. I know